To go out and rock on 6th Avenue, Ainsley. That's what's happening.
We have the best jobs.
That's excellent.
Where are you?
He's in the Hamptons.
I'm in the Hamptons. I'm basking in beach weather. I'm missing you, but I heard Skillet all the way out here. It was really happening.
All right, we're going to play a soundbite of the president talking a little bit last night with Sean Hannity in his first interview after the Mueller report. And Mr. Mueller, we actually heard him speak the words about what went into it. Your observations, though, about his performance a couple of days ago, Geraldo.
Before we hear from him,
yeah.
I thought that Mueller was old and frail and fragile. I felt very sorry for him watching this war hero kind of dissolve before our very eyes. It made me feel old. He's a year younger than I am, and I watched. He seemed befuddled. He seemed to not have a grasp of his own report. They say so many people didn't read the 450, 480-page report. It seems almost as if the special counsel didn't read his own report. He didn't know some of the references. How could he not know GPS Fusion and Christopher Steele and this sleazy dossier that led to so much of the agony the country has been put through lately?
Yeah.
I was embarrassed for him in many ways, and I saw impeachment going up in smoke right before my eyes.
Well, last night, Sean was asking the president, he said, did you watch any of the hearing? He said, I wasn't planning on watching it, but then I ended up watching more than I wanted to. He said he had some meetings, but he kept going back to it, and he ended up watching the afternoon session as well. This is what he also said to Sean.
This was a fake witch hunt, and it should never be allowed to happen to another president again. This was treason. This was high crimes. They create this phony crime, and then they say he obstructed. They said there was no collusion, but he obstructed. The crime was committed on the other side, and we'll find out about that. We have a great attorney general who's looking at it. I've been hearing a lot of the media actually is talking about investigate the investigators, and a lot more than that. I think a lot of good is going to come out of it.
Geraldo, that's the president last night, and I'll tell you what, if he thinks impeachment's over, he hasn't heard Adam Schiff and Jerry Nadler. I think they're going to move forward with it.
But they're voices from the past, I think, Brian.
I agree.
You're going to be hearing them. They're almost like desperate high school athletes trying to cling to their glory 30, 40 years later.
Right.
It's really sad.
Are you talking about me? Geraldo, I didn't have much glory.
It's sort of like you, but even a has-been you. So you have a situation here where the gravest shadow on the Trump presidency has been revealed to be just smoke and mirrors. You have a situation where outrageously a counterintelligence probe was launched against the president and persisted all the way until last year, trying to prove that our president was a traitor, was guilty of treason, was Putin's bitch. I mean, it was pathetic what they were alleging. The whole thing fell apart. The people won Pulitzer Prizes behind this absolutely obscene allegation against the president. I understand his fury. Was it treason? Was it a coup attempt? I think those are really inflammatory words. I don't think the president necessarily has to go there, but the new attorney general, and if only William Barr was the only attorney general in the Trump administration, we wouldn't have gone through this agony. But I'm confident that Attorney General Barr now will get to the root of how this whole thing started. So the president's promise that this will never happen again comes true.
Are you curious who was running the show? If Robert Mueller was simply a figurehead, as he has been depicted since his performance, who is calling the shots?
I think, Steve, that is an excellent question. And I'm not a conspiracy theorist, and I'm not necessarily a believer in the deep state. But I have to say that within the FBI and within the Department of Justice, at the highest civil service level, there seemed to be an attitude about this president, as embodied by Lisa Page and Peter Strzok, wherein they thought he was an enemy of the American people, and they thought they could use their enormous hidden powers to undermine and to undo the 2016 election. This was something that really went so far beyond the pale that I think historians will look at it, and they won't look at the purported contacts with Russia, because we know that there were none. They'll look at how so many in high office
Right.
with esteemed reputations bought into this whole nonsense of the president in 2013 in Moscow,
Right.
in the hotel and the golden shower, and used that to go against him. That's what Putin had
Yeah.
against him. All of this farcical, fictional nonsense, this fodder for Bill Maher and other late night
Right.
comedians
I better
was
interject.
incorporated
Yeah.
and became. Go ahead.
Because there's too many F words, you're getting me scared.
It's a morning show, Geraldo.
So, Geraldo, even though you're
Once I get on a roll, you never know where I'm
Yes,
going.
Kids
exactly.
at home are sitting there asking their parents what some of these words are. So
Right.
keep it
Right.
clean.
So the NYPD is being where everyone's just aghast. Their iconic logo is being sullied right now because now in
being
a
soaked.
fourth incident, a water incident of our officers on the streets just doing their job and being doused with buckets of water. A fourth separate episode has emerged. Geraldo, of a guy who worked here, understands the streets of New York City as good as anybody. This was taught in the academy to walk
Some of
away.
these are kids that are watching this
This
and
has
doing
got to
this.
stop.
Well, in my day, somebody with a billy club would have whacked me on the behind. And that can't happen anymore. But having gone through so many police funerals for officers killed in the line of duty, I cannot abide this. This is absolutely disgusting to me. This is so embarrassing. New York I lived through the 60s and 70s where there were over 2,000 homicides every single year. Now it's 1/10 of that.
Right.
The city is the safest big city on earth because of the thin blue line, who protects us against crime, against anarchy and disorder. They should be revered, and
Here's
since
what the
9/11, generally speaking, they have been.
Here's what the president said, Geraldo, last night.
Probably the worst mayor in the history of New York City. He's done a bad job, and now he's running for president, and people can't even believe it. He's a horrible mayor. The policemen and women cannot stand him. They don't respect him. They don't like him. Remember, they turned their back on him a couple of years ago when he got up to speak. Everybody turned their back, and they kept it that way. And still, they want to do it, but they still have respect for the office, if not him. I thought that was tragic watching that scene. A couple of days ago when I first saw it, I couldn't believe it. I said, let me see that again. I don't believe what I'm seeing.
Geraldo, the news this morning is that apparently 3 of the people who were in some of those early episodes have been arrested, and they've already made bail and are out, including a guy who apparently was a gang member with the Crips. And the charges are all misdemeanor, except in one case where one of the buckets fried somebody's body camera, and so they will face a slightly tougher charge.
Well, I think that there was an assault committed, and I would like to see an assault charged.
Yes.
You have a situation where New Yorkers became spoiled. We had Giuliani for 2 terms, Bloomberg for 3 terms. We got spoiled with an administration that put the city back on track, that honored cops and had different communities speaking with each other, cops on the corner, community policing, and so forth. Under de Blasio, in my first month as a resident of New York City with de Blasio as mayor, it snowed in the Upper East Side, a relatively upscale neighborhood. He wouldn't pick up the snow because he wanted the other communities to be serviced before the one Republican district in Manhattan, the Silk Stocking district. He showed his cards then. He is he's an activist. He's not, someone who really has a vision of all the group in the city acting together, everyone pulling in the same direction, people being positive about the future of the city. De Blasio seems much more divisive. It is no accident that he's polling 0 as he runs for president of the United States.
Right.
He is extremely unpopular, even in New York City. And this incident, to not generate outrage from the mayor, I think, is itself an outrage.
Well, by the way, a couple of tweets. De Blasio came back at the president after the president called him out. He says Donald Trump knows nothing about his hometown. He never lived a real New York City life. He should get off Twitter. Then the NYPD union member tweeted this out about De Blasio. Get it straight, Warren Wilhelm Jr. Donald Trump Jr. from New York City rebuilt a city in the 70s, 80s, and 90s that looked like blank city you are now creating. He lives here when you were supporting socialism and the Sandinistas. He was always a patriot. I know, I lived it. That's right back at the mayor, because the mayor was sympathetic to the Sandinistas, and he did live that life.
I became friends with Donald Trump when he was in his 20s, a developer in Queens, the borough of Queens, a county on Long Island. He came into New York. He saw the Hotel Commodore on 42nd Street. It was a den of iniquity, hookers, junkies, muggers. It was 42nd Street. It was a cancer. Trump came in and he redid it, and it became the Grand Hyatt Hotel. It was a magnet for the rebirth of the entire Times Square area. He did the same thing. Wallman Skating Rink, the west side of Manhattan, which was a dump. All those piers now shining high tower residences. It's a brand new neighborhood. The golf course in the Bronx. He's done a lot more. I would submit Trump has done a lot more for New York City than the mayor de Blasio, who's out of town, who goes to the gym in a different borough by escorted police convoys.
Right.
It's the guy is totally out of touch.
And he'd be outraged right now if he was up. He usually sleeps till 10.
Geraldo, thank you very much for
I
joining
should have
us.
run against him.
Thanks for joining us today
You
from
should.
Quag out in Long Island.
Thank you, Geraldo.
That's
Great to
right.
see you. Have a good weekend.
Thank you,
Geraldo
Ainsley.
for
Great
mayor.
seeing you. Great seeing you.
That's
Geraldo
the
for
story.
mayor?
Geraldo, come back. Run for mayor. You should.
Good
No
luck on
fighting today with Geraldo. Very good.
No, I
Brian.
want him to be mayor.
Okay, Jillian's over there. She got some headlines for us. Hey, Jillian.
That's right. Good morning. And let's start with this story because we're learning more about what happened to Jeffrey Epstein, found nearly unconscious on the floor of his jail cell. Investigators think the disgraced financier was attacked and that an ex-cop being held in the same unit is the one who did it. Originally, there was suspicion Epstein tried to injure himself, but focus has shifted to Nicholas Tartaglione. Tartaglione facing the death penalty for 4 drug-related murders. The New York Post reporting when Epstein was found in his cell, Tartaglione had earbuds in. He said he didn't see or hear anything. Police believe they're closing in on teen murder suspects in a small town with just one road in and out. Canadian police believe Cam McLeod and Briar Schmigelski are hiding out in the swampy wilderness after they were spotted in the area twice. The search for the teens stretching 2,000 miles across Canada. They're suspected in the killings of an American woman and her boyfriend and a college lecturer. A motive is unknown. Today, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is set to follow up on these remarks about meeting with Nancy Pelosi.
Are you interested in having a conversation face-to-face with House Speaker Nancy Pelosi?
Why wouldn't she? The House Speaker and freshman Democrat will meet face-to-face after a public disagreement on Twitter over a border aid package. So we'll see what happens there. And then there's this. The Baltimore Orioles outlast the Los Angeles Angels in a 16-inning game that took more than 6 hours to finish.
Ooh, tags that one right field. Maybe you were right. Way back
A 2-run homer in the 16th inning, giving Baltimore the lead 10-8. Then center fielder Stevie Wilkerson preserves the lead, becoming the first position player to ever record a save on the pitcher's mound. My goodness, I think the true heroes are the fans who stayed there sitting in the stands.
Yeah, both of them.
Yeah. There might have been 3 if you count the concession guy. Right.
Thank you, Jillian.
Okay, it's 14 minutes after the top of the hour. Fox.
So what is the American response? Ellison Barber is live outside the White House with the very latest. Ellison?
Hey, good morning to you guys. North Korea is calling their latest missile launches a warning to South Korea to stop importing weapons and those joint military exercises with the United States. According to state-run media, North Korea referred to the South Koreans as warmongers. Despite all of that, the Trump administration, from the Secretary of State to the president, seemed to be trying to downplay Thursday's launches. President Trump spoke to Sean Hannity last night, and he said, in part, in the case of North Korea, I'm actually getting along very well with them. He then went on to say, but we'll see what happens. He talked about how sanctions are still on. Hostages have been returned. He says that they have not tested missiles other than smaller ones, which seem to be something that he was pointing to as significant in his view. All of this as Iran test fires a medium-range ballistic missile. A U.S. official tells Fox News the missile, which is known as a Shahab 3, flew over 600 miles from southern Iran to an area outside of Tehran in northern Iran. It comes as tensions in the Persian Gulf have steadily increased since President Trump withdrew from the Iran nuclear deal and imposed harsh sanctions on the regime. Iran is still holding a British oil tanker and its 23 crew members captive. They seized that tanker last week. A senior administration official told Fox News yesterday evening that they were aware of reports of a projectile being launched from Iran, but they said that they had no further comment at this time. Back to you guys.
All right, Ellison, thank you very much. So Iran wants the sanctions lifted or changed because they are crippling them right now.
That's
and
right.
North Korea doing a little saber rattling before these talks with the president.
Right. This is a brand new medium-range missile, a type they have not seen before, but they're not necessarily fearful of. Oh, fantastic. So that means they're breaking the sanctions. That's unbelievable. Meanwhile, Democrats say border retention centers, they're cruel, but are they really? Griff Jenkins got an exclusive look inside.
All right, welcome back. We got some quick headlines for you. First, doctors sounding the alarm on vaping after 8 teenagers were hospitalized in the state of Wisconsin. Look at this.
Vaping in teenagers is something that is causing harm to our kids, and we want that message to be loud and clear. We don't have a lot of information about the long-term effects, and sometimes not even about the short-term effects.
All of the patients apparently suffered severe lung damage and reported using vapes. Health Department investigating. And a California judge cuts a $2 billion roundup verdict to $86 million. The judge ruling a couple's damage award was excessive and unconstitutional. They blamed the weed killer Roundup for giving them cancer. Bayer, the company behind it, plans to file an appeal.
Okay.
That
You've been following that one. That's interesting. Okay. Well, as
exclusive tour you won't see anywhere else. Griff.
Steve, Ainsley, that's right. You know, this is one of the facilities across the country a few weeks ago that these protesters were saying that ICE facilities were inhumane, that they lacked adequate supplies, didn't have access to health care. Well, we came here to this one in Adelanto. It's one of the largest of all 33 across the country. And the acting director of the LA field office, Thomas Giles, gave us a firsthand look at everything we wanted to see. Here's what happened. Watch. Acting Director, where are we?
We're currently in the intake processing center at the Adelanto ICE Processing Center. This facility here houses up to 1,940 detainees. After they get classified and after they get booked in by the facility, we're giving them hygiene items. They have soap, shampoo, conditioner, toothbrush, toothpaste, as well as they have bed linens, socks, shoes, shower shoes, and then their uniform when they're detained here. Medical care is a top-notch priority. We have a full-time medical clinic here. One thing that we do offer here is for consulate phone calls and pro bono attorneys, it's a free phone call for the detainee.
Director, what is this area here?
We're currently in the special housing unit here. In this area, the individuals that are detained here are individuals that have committed infractions.
So that's like fighting or disciplinary
the most common
in custody?
Yeah, the most common infraction that's occurred here is refusing staff orders and fighting. While they're in here, they have open movement, and they have the ability to roam around the area here. We have phones for them to use. We have books for them to use. Individuals are able to play Xbox and watch movies.
These guys are playing soccer. I presume this is the recreation yard.
Yeah, right now we're in the recreation yard, and we offer the detainees anywhere from 2 to 3 hours a day, if not more, depending on the availability.
In terms of the characterizations out there, there's a big national debate, but what do you want people to know?
Well, I want people to know that when these individuals are detained here, we're giving them the care and custody that they need. We're going to do everything we can to keep the individuals safe while they're detained here.
Now, Stephen Ainsley, there's about 1,700 in this facility behind me. There's 53,000 in ICE custody across the country. Here in this facility, more than 60% were convicted of a crime. One of those detainees we spoke to who was convicted of a crime, Noel Beltran from El Salvador. Here's what he told me about the conditions inside. Listen.
Yeah,
Here at Adelanto,
right?
How do you think the conditions are?
It's great for me. It's great. I could see my family. I could hug my family. And Theo Lacey, I couldn't hug my family. They're coming from an hour and a half away, Van Nuys to Orange, and traffic and all that stuff. Half an hour, sometimes 25 minutes, 21 minutes. It'll get cut off real quick, behind the glass. Right here, I have contact with my family. I could hug my kids.
Now, these are all adults over 18. There are no children here, so this is different than what you've seen in Texas in the Border Patrol processing centers. Here on this premises, there are 6 DOJ immigration courts. All of these people are waiting for their cases, or in some cases appeals, to play out and the decision to be made whether or not they're released on from custody or whether they're deported. One final important note, Steve, Ainsley, and Brian, and that's this. Director Giles said, I hope that when the lawmakers who criticize our facilities and our handling of these detainees, for which we have made health care and care a priority, we hope these lawmakers will see your peace, Griff, and that you will come to this facility. So Giles has opened an invitation. Come to this one or any other one across the country and have a firsthand look before they criticize them again.
This is a crisis. Everybody agrees, and everybody went home. Lawmakers went home for 6 weeks, so help is not on the way, sadly. But the criticism always is.
Griff, how long are they usually there before they have that hearing?
The average stay here is about 70, 75 days, so a couple of months, although some of the migrants have been upwards of 6 months to a year or longer, because under our system they can appeal. The appeals run through the Ninth Circuit Court, but you know the backlog of cases is upwards of 900,000 across the country, and we have more people coming, so it's a little bit longer stay. However, it's important to note, ICE likes to point out, that stay while your case is being heard. In the case of this place, you saw what it's like. It's not.
The next day, I did like 9 takes. I was so afraid, and finally I said, "Can we just take the teleprompter down and let me just do it like I did it at those shows?" And it launched October 7, 2011, in the middle of the night, and I went from 5 employees to 540 days.
Unbelievable. Wow. Of course, this is all in your book. What are the odds from crack addict to CEO? It's on sale for pre-sale right now. And tell us about the cover, because it looks like a hologram where you see you as the crack addict, and then you move the book a little bit and you see you today.
Yeah, that picture was taken. Drug dealers did an intervention on me, and I was up for 14 days, and they did an intervention. They said, you know, I couldn't buy crack anywhere then, and they said, Mike, you've been telling us for years that this pillow is just a platform for God, and you're going to come back and help us all someday with these addictions and everything, and so I made that a hologram on the book, and the pre-sale from the book. The big story for me is I'm launching with help from these pre-sales, it's called the Lindale Recovery Network, and it's going to help. It's revolutionary. It's going to help millions of addicts. It's going to tens of thousands of jobs. I was there when the president signed the opiate bill, and it ties right into that, and his passion and everything to get rid of this opiate crisis, and this is where I'm going.
Mike Lindell, thanks so much for telling your story, and I guess the president will be real happy to know you're going to try to switch Minnesota red, the state that gave us Al Franken and Governor Ventura. Now you want to change things.
But also gave us the MyPillow.
Yeah. Yes. Gave us Mike Lindell.
God bless you. God is so good. That's a great story. Happy for you.
Thank you. God bless you all. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Mike.
Hot Square is going to take the stage in about a half an hour, and we will talk to the band in about 2 minutes.
They are so cool. You've got to go get their new album. Their new record comes out next week. It's called Victorious. They're a Christian rock band.
And this is how powerful they are. They forced us off the turf because it's so crowded with people. We have to be up here.
They have a huge following.
Yes, and they got to be joining us in a matter of moments. But what are we doing now?
We're going to the news, and Jillian's got the headlines.
Good morning, guys. It is packed out there. Looks like a fun time. I will see you in a little bit, but for now, let's talk about this story that we're following. A licensed gun owner hailed a hero for stopping armed suspects at a 7-Eleven.
I was thinking today was my last day on this earth. I thought these robbers were going to shoot us and kill us. He was a hero. Thank God he was in here. Thank God he was holding a gun. And
the team has been wearing the thin blue line flag on their uniforms to honor 2 sheriff's deputies killed in the line of duty 3 years ago. But some on social media have slammed the team for getting political, some even calling it racist. All right, so you know that saying, what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas? Well, if it's true, then the rest of us should feel pretty lucky, because right now Sin City is being taken over by grasshoppers. Look at this video all over social media showing thousands of the bugs around the Vegas Strip and covering sidewalks. Scientists say the invasion could be due to a wet winter and spring. And then there's this story. A woman gets a sweet delivery for her birthday. This Amazon box is actually a cake. Emily McGuire's husband thought it would be perfect since she gets about 3 Amazon packages every week. Who doesn't? Even the shipping label was edible, featuring the address 1234 Birthday Lane. So look at your headlines. Now let's go back outside.
All right, Jillian, thank you very much.
Okay, with over 12 million albums sold and more than 2 billion online streams, multi-platinum rock band Skillet is sizzling the worldwide success.
And the band is gearing up for the release of their brand new album, and the crowd is cheering in the background, victorious.
That's right. Join us right now. Here's Skillet. We got the lead singer, John Cooper, keyboardist, guitarist, and John's White, Corey Cooper, drummer Jen Ledger, and lead guitarist Seth Morrison. Screen left. Good morning to you.
What's up? It's great to be here.
It's great to have you as well. I love the story of the name Skillet, because when you guys, you worked in other bands and you got together, and where'd that name come from?
Yeah, it was actually my pastor at the time said, you should start a band with these other members of different bands. It'd be like throwing everything into a skillet, all these different ingredients. And then he said, somebody said, you should call it Skillet, that'd be funny. And we were like, okay.
What was the backup name? Casserole?
Yes. Yeah, that's way worse. Skillet's bad, that's worse.
Corey, how do you explain the success of the band and this huge audience and they're so passionate? How do you explain it?
I mean, I would just say it's our fan base. They're hardcore, they're dedicated, grassroots following, and they've basically catapulted us into selling a bunch of records.
Authenticity.
How did y'all all meet? How did you come together?
You know what, when we started, we were 3 members, me and 2 other guys. Corey and I got married almost right. We've been on the road 22 years, ever since we got married, raised our kids on the road and the whole thing. Jen goes to our church. She joined a few years later. Seth is a friend of a friend, and it's been 10 years now. So this band has been together for over 10 years.
So is that bus right there, is that your house?
Yes, that's our house. Yes, you're not allowed in. No, I'm joking.
How many miles on your house?
Oh, that's the 5th bus we've had. That's got over 1 million on it.
No kidding.
How many children?
2.
How does that work? Do you homeschool?
Similar, virtual academy. So they get up at 8. They're on school. They're doing school online in the front lounge. So front lounge is school time.
So, John, explain to me this. A lot of people don't link Christian music and heavy metal.
Yeah.
Why did you think that would work? Clearly it works, but why do you think that it is?
Yeah, because rock and roll is all about singing something you believe in. And if it goes against the grain, then that's even better. That's what rock and roll is about. So for me, writing about my faith, saying it's my 3 minutes to write something I believe in, it doesn't matter what they think. This is my song. My song up in here. That's why it works.
One of your songs is Feel Invincible. Tell us about that song, because it's been very popular, right?
I hope so. Yes, it has. Yeah.
And the reason I mention that is because we're going to surprise you an RIAA Platinum plaque for the song Feel
I've never
Invincible.
seen it.
Platinum.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Thanks, I love
you
it.
Can hang this up in your
It's
bus.
heavy. Look how heavy this thing is.
It is heavy.
Oh my gosh, I love it.
That's
Thank you so
almost-
much. Never seen it. That's us.
All right, but the surprise doesn't stop there, does it?
I don't know.
Okay, good question.
Tell us
good
about
answer.
your graphic novel.
Yeah, you have a graphic novel, and your character?
Yeah.
Tell me about your character.
Oh, yeah. Well, I'm myself, but I'm not in a rock band. I'm a super tough lumberjack. But yeah, this book's called Eden.
Oh,
It's
okay.
kind of science fiction and
this is for you in honor of your passion
Oh
for
my
axes,
gosh.
and for justice and lumber.
Oh my gosh. My dream has come true. I get to be on Fox and Friends holding an axe. Yeah, definitely. They're not going to let me around with
How
that.
did y'all become Christians?
I was raised in a Christian family. My mom, Memphis.
Memphis, okay.
Memphis, Tennessee. I feel weird talking about this, holding this huge axe, but pass it around. Anyway, my mom was a Jesus fanatic, and I grew up learning about the Bible ever since I was a kid. And I always had faith in God. I looked around, and it has to be a God, as He's been my hope. and my life, and that's why we write songs about our faith.
I have to tell you, you must know about Ainsley's Bible series.
I do know about it.
Ainsley, I don't want to force a relationship here, but could he sit in, perhaps? Or could the whole band sit in?
Come on, baby, we're in.
Please, come to our
If you want somebody smart with the Bible, that'll be Corey. I'm funny, she's smart. But we'd love to do it.
Thank you.
And I have seen it on Fox Nation. I'm a subscriber.
Can you believe that? Do we not work for the best network? They allow us to air our Bible studies.
I know, it's crazy. I love it.
I was asked not to take part in the Bible study. I'm a little insulted by that.
But he too many jokes. He has his history lessons on Fox Nation.
Tell us a little bit about your fans. Do you refer to them as the Skilleteers?
The Skilleteer, no, we call them the Panheads.
The Panheads.
Because our fans have been so supportive of Skillet for so long. That's the only reason it makes sense we've been around for this long, with us through everything. They come out here at 6 a.m. to watch us play. We love
crew members approaching a motorboat with their guns drawn. The smugglers frantically tried to toss packages overboard during the chase. And the Coast Guardsman who went viral for a submarine drug bust will be honored. The unidentified officer will be recognized for his tremendous feat of bravery in the Pacific Ocean. The crew confiscated $569 million worth of drugs. Steve?
That guy was amazing. Thank you, Jillian. Meanwhile, some 2020 Democrats have very expensive taste. The campaign filings of a few presidential candidates are raising eyebrows following the latest round of FEC spending disclosures. Joining us right now to disclose some of them, a few of the most bizarre expenditures, Conservative Partnership Institute Policy Director Rachel Bovard joins us from our nation's capital. Rachel, good morning to you.
Good morning.
Okay, so these are some crazy numbers. Where do they come from?
Well, they come from FEC filings. People comb through these reports to find exactly examples like this, crazy spending on all kinds of things.
Okay, so let's start with the front runner right now. According to the polls on the Democratic side, Joe Biden says paella, he paid $12,000. That's a lot to shell out, isn't it?
That is a ton. And for Joe Biden, paella may be the new arugula. If you remember Obama complaining about the price of arugula in 2007, well, Joe Biden's got a lot of paella on his hands, and he may be asking, per Seinfeld, what am I going to do with all this paella?
No kidding. Meanwhile, Bernie Sanders, you know, a man of the people, it turns out he's a millionaire, campaign swag, $751,000 worth of what?
Yeah, all kinds of campaign swag, hats, T-shirts, buttons, stickers. Obviously, he should have been spending this money paying his staff, who have now unionized against him. But more than that, I went on his campaign website. We still have to pay for this swag, and it's like, Bernie, free health care, free college. Where's our free swag? Stop holding out on us.
No kidding. All right, John Delaney, he's back in the single digits when it comes to the polls. But when it comes to buying a cake, John Delaney spent $700.
Yeah, I'm not sure how this is going to help John Delaney unless he's jumping out of the cake. I'm not sure it's really going to help his poll numbers. So good luck to him.
All right. And finally, the final one we're going to talk a little bit about is Marianne Williamson. She made a movie, a self-help movie service, $2,000. What was that about?
Well, whenever the question is about Marianne Williamson, my answer is just yes. She is on a journey of national discovery in front of the country, and I am here for it. So well, good luck, girl.
Yeah, no kidding. Some of the other expenditures, Joe Biden spent, according to this Politico article, over $100,000 on a launch ad that they never used. Why would he waste that much money?
Yeah, well, you know, when you're the front runner and you're rolling in cash, I guess you can just pick which $100,000 video you want to run. But yeah, not necessarily fiscally responsible. I think his donors might have something to say about that.
Yeah. When you look at these numbers, what comes to mind for you?
Well, what's interesting is that you see a lot of these candidates just railing against these big companies on the campaign trail, but then using their services. Bernie Sanders is a great example. He rails against Amazon constantly. So does Elizabeth Warren. But those two campaigns have the highest number of dollar amount of spending on Amazon. So same thing about Facebook. They want to break up those companies, but then spend millions of dollars on Facebook ads.
Sure. I see Joe Biden spent about $250,000 on private jet travel. Pete Buttigieg, $300,000 on private jet travel. Of course, it's different when you're the president of the United States because you have the assets of Air Force One at your disposal as well. But how do these campaign expenses compare to the Trump campaign expenses?
Well, I think I would point out that a lot of these candidates who rail on us about climate change, say don't drive those big SUVs, don't reduce your jet travel, are then jetting around the country in private planes and SUVs. So I will say at least the Trump campaign was clear. They weren't hypocrites on this issue.
Well, and I see Cory Booker spent $500 to fix a car, so at least he's not flying around the country.
Yeah, let's hope that wasn't a poor staffer that got fired for wrecking the candidate's car.
Is that what happened?
I don't know, but I wouldn't want to be that staffer if it was.
No kidding. All right, Rachel Bovard, Policy Director, Conservative Partnership Institute. Thank you very much for giving us some facts behind the numbers. Thank you.
My pleasure.
All right. Meanwhile, Joy Behar blasting House Republicans for how they treated Robert Mueller. Look at this.
They were very disrespectful, I thought, the Republicans. They have a tendency to be disrespectful to veterans in this country.
Well, Pete Hegseth is a veteran. He's going to respond to Joy in the next hour. Also, it's a Friday. You know what that means. Geraldo Rivera is in the house. Also, Skillet is going to kick off the